Today's episode is going to be all about travel and basically living a big life outside of the gym. And so Alex and I kind of wanted to chat about some of our favorite places that we've been, why we loved going there, tips and tricks, or maybe like things to know before you go to certain places. So just like that, like knowing, hey, you might not have data, so you better know where to go once you hit the airport. And also just some thoughts on how we juggle nutrition, fitness, maintaining a healthy lifestyle while living life on the go. And so, Alex, I have two questions for you. And so the first question is, how many times have we traveled together?
I mean, a lot, quite a bit. I mean, because we first traveled that San Diego trip. Remember,
Yeah.
like when you, and that was the start, right? I guess we've been a few places, but I mean, I think most recently, you came on my family's vacation to Florida. What was
so
that?
Good.
What was that? 2021, right? Yeah,
Yep.
2021. Yeah. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, like, want to come to Florida with my family? And then Lori's like, hell yeah, like, let's do it.
Instagram, we're still not dating.
Yeah, like we weren't dating. It's just kind of like, you bring your friend, like, when you do in high school, it's like you bring your best friend to your family's like cruise vacation or whatever, and like they just come along with you, like that's it. So
yeah. Well, and we did Miami quite a few years together.
That's true.
We went to Mind Pump together actually because we did California.
Yeah.
Was that last year before last? I feel like all of the years, especially with the pandemic.
Since 2020, like don't even know what time it is. So
my favorite picture of us, though, is the very first time we went to Miami. I think it was 2019. But I don't know if it was because it was the cheapest flight or it was the only flight, but our flight boarded at 5:15. So we were there at like 4 a.m. But the picture is you with an eye mask on and you're trying to sleep in the airport. And then like, I'm like thumbs up and just like grinning because what do you do at like 3 or 4 a.m?
Yeah.
But probably we'll have to find that for like the YouTube and like put it.
I think yeah.
So my second question for you, Alex, is we were talking about this last night at the house because obviously Laura is visiting and staying with Charlie and I. And so the question was, if you had to move somewhere tomorrow, so like Laura obviously lives in Colorado, so it was like, Colorado is off the chopping block. Where would you move to and why? So if you had to move tomorrow, where would you commit to? And is it in the U.S. or is it outside the U.S.?
Man, that's tough. Honestly, I really loved the Pacific Northwest. I really loved Portland area. I know everybody's like, it's gray and gloomy like 2/3 of the year. But honestly, that time where it's nice, like I went in October and they were like, this is unheard of. You don't get this kind of weather in October. But they did say that was kind of an indication of like how it is like when it is nicer. And that is somewhere I would absolutely move to because it is beautiful. Like there's mountains, there's beach. Yeah, it's a little cold, but like there's so much to do. Like if you love the outdoors and nature, like there's so many trees. It's so green. Like I think that's where I would probably go. Pacific Northwest for sure.
I was having I was going to say I was having internalized anxiety because there was one day, I think you went to like a bachelor party in Colorado or something, but on your story you were like, yo, I could totally move to Colorado. And I was like, no, please don't. Because obviously like I want to see you and I don't want to be cold.
But dude, like I went to freaking Target. I walk out the Target in Colorado and there's like Purple Mountain's majesty like on the horizon. I'm like, do these people just like live like that's just their normal every day? They just see freaking Coors Light can mountains in the fucking background. Like this is amazing. Same thing with like Oregon and Washington. Like just have trees and then snowy peaks all the time.
It's so hard because my brother lived in Seattle for like 10 years. And so that was always my like, dang, I can't afford to live here. Like, at that time it was like, I was a broke like college kid, but it was like, how do I like save up my pennies and afford this shit? Because same thing, it's like Seattle is the same. It's like, if it's beautiful out and it's not raining, it's a 10. But reversely, otherwise, you're going to be sad and you're going to be getting that D, aka vitamin D, and like your happy light is going to like do your thing, right? Man, okay. So where would I live? So what I have learned, especially after living in California, is that palm trees give me life. And so my problem I now have is that when I travel, I feel like a little kid that like my balloon deflated because I'm just like, oh, I miss the palm trees. Like get back in my life. I would probably, so if it was before pandemic, I would actually still commit to Seattle. I love that if you are downtown, it's so walkable. Like you can get, there were days that I would be visiting my brother and I would literally get 20,000, 30,000 steps because I would just like walk from one end of the city to the other. And the access to just like trail running and nature, like where my brother used to live, quite literally the first day that they moved in, a bear stole their trash like off of the front porch, you know. So they lived, the name is escaping me, but they like kind of lived in a little mountain area. But that being said, it was like they also drove 20 to 30 minutes to get anywhere or get groceries, which is totally not my vibe. So I really enjoyed my time in Austin. I really didn't enjoy the summers, especially because they're just hotter.
The swamp ass is real, man.
The boob sweat, like that. Ugh, I don't miss that. So if I was going to commit, man, I would probably go out of the country, to be honest. It's like the toxic Libra trait of like, I love the chaos and being very uncomfortable is like highly appealing. So I'm actually still surprised because it's like we both went through a phase of like, yo, can we just do like the Aaron Straker and Jenny combo of like we move every 3 months, we just rent an Airbnb and then go somewhere. But it's not conducive to work stuff for me is like the biggest one. So it's like, are we talking realistic or are we talking like, yo, if you didn't have to like film regularly and be in a gym? But I would for sure, like I loved Belize, I loved Costa Rica, but I just can't commit to anywhere. So it's like I want to move and be on the go every couple of months. So I suck and I don't have an answer to my own question, but I would choose chaos and I would move regularly. But did you grow up traveling or was that something that was a little newer to you like once you got older?
We definitely didn't grow up. I definitely didn't grow up traveling, like at least like out of the country wise. And we went on trips and, you know, family vacations. I think the only place that we went out of country when I was little was the Bahamas.
I mean, that doesn't suck.
But I don't even, honestly, I was so young. I don't even remember. And, but I didn't really travel in college either because with my degree, I couldn't and I didn't have any money. And 20s, I didn't travel because I was too busy spending all my money, like partying. So like once I became an adult, like it wasn't until like 2019 when I really started to travel, and then COVID hit. But then I picked it back up in after pandemic.
I influenced you. I love that.
Yeah, I went to Thailand in 2019, like right before the pandemic. So.
Yeah, did you remind me, because I feel like that was forever ago, did you go on that trip solo or was that with somebody?
No, I went with a friend of mine from high school. So yeah, we're still good friends. And we went to about 2 weeks. So
heck yeah. Yeah, it's part of why we were excited to like make this podcast too. We were talking about this, but it's like a lot of times when you talk to people about where their favorite places to like vacation or travel, it's interesting because it's like, I don't think a lot of people realize you can go to really cool places, but mutually not spend a lot of money doing it. So it's like recently when I actually did my 30th birthday, I was like, yo, I want to send it big. Like I want to go somewhere really cool. And so Belize, when I was like Googling and searching, like Belize was the thing that came up. And it's like, that was actually a really affordable trip. Yeah. And it wasn't like I didn't break the bank, I didn't sweat it. And same thing, like both times that I went to Costa Rica was actually with CrossFit gymnastics seminar staff. But same thing, it's like you could go for like 7 days to Costa Rica and it'd be less than like $1,000 between like hotel, food, flights, and everything. And so I think that a lot of people don't realize it's like, yeah, you can go places like Hawaii and you can spend a couple $1,000s before you like even blink.
Yeah.
Or it's like, man, like when Charlie and I went to Hawaii, in retrospect, it's like part of why we went is because it was the number one place that people were like, oh, you got to go there. And so we did. And then it was like, I kind of had like, we had a great time, but in retrospect, it's like, yo, I could have done like 2 or 3 foreign trips rather than like that trip just made my bank account sad. Like, and
yeah, didn't you spend like $80 on 2 poke bowls in Hawaii for like
To be clear, I forget whatever poke place we did go to, but it was apparently like a super famous place. Like I want to say it was like The Rock's favorite poke place or something. But yeah, it was like we literally got 2 bottles of water, 2 bowls of poke, and it was $84. And we're just like, please let this not be like the normal. And then it was the normal. Like literally every grocery store item, it didn't matter if it was Pam spray or coconut oil spray, was like $8. Like that was the magical number no matter what. And it's because they have to like import the food, right? So same thing. Right. It's like when we were in Belize for my 30th birthday, I went with a really good friend of mine. It was actually really hard to find vegetables out there. So it was like if you're dining at a restaurant, like you all day long, you could have it. But if we were trying to like save some money by like cooking at our little like hotel or Airbnb spot, and quite literally it would be like 1 bell pepper, $6 or something. And it would be like shriveled and slightly like poisonous looking, you know? So that is the thing that you have to watch out for, is like learning what places, like when you travel, knowing what places you're better off just going out to eat the whole time versus trying to cook at home. Because it actually, Belize ended up being that way. It was more expensive to cook at home than it was to actually just like any restaurant you went to was like $20 for a lot of food versus, like I said, you'd be like, I would like a bell pepper. Here's $6. So yeah, that was super interesting.
If I'm going somewhere like a different country, I'm probably not gonna cook, right? Like because I want to experience the culture and the cuisine of the country. So, and you know, then I'm like, well, if I cook everything, now of course, like if you want to cook, but if I cook everything, I'm not getting a full experience. So, yeah, I'd rather just like eat at restaurants or go to local places and eat. Like that way, I get the full experience.
Now that you can't tolerate dairy, does that change your answer though? Like, would you still, especially if you went to somewhere like Mexico or like somewhere that's a lot of cheese and milk, would you just like choose it? What was that answer?
Here's the thing about that is, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think the food in America is different than the food abroad, because I've gone like, okay, so I just now found out that I like can't really do dairy. So I haven't traveled yet. But when I was in Spain and Portugal, I ate hella dairy all day long. I was eating cheese. That's all they eat is cheese and wine. Like that's it. They live on cheese, bread, and wine. Like they don't eat anything else. Like, so if you don't eat that, you're going to starve. But I ate lots of cheese when I was over in Europe, and I didn't have any problems, like none. Come back to America and I start, obviously eating dairy again, and I feel terrible. And I have had this experience not only in Europe, but I've had this experience in Mexico and Colombia.
Interesting.
I don't know what it is about the stuff that we have in, like they're putting something in our cows because whenever I come back home, that's when I have problems. And I don't know, maybe it's just a different environment. I don't know. But that being said, if I'm going to Egypt, I am going to be a little bit careful about what I eat. I mean, it's not super hard to eat dairy-free meat and vegetables because that's what I'm probably going to choose for the most part anyways. But, if I want to try something, it's not going to kill me. I may have to take a little bit of a little bit of medicines to help my stomach, make my tummy not, hate myself. So
changing your Instagram handle to Dairy Daddy.
Dairy-free daddy. That's right.
Dairy-free daddy. No, it's super interesting too, because I guess being like fun-free, for those that don't know, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, aka fun-free. So it's like for me personally, travel, where I go has to be dictated partially based off of that. Because it's like, can you imagine, again, if I tried to go to somewhere like Europe or I tried to go somewhere like Mexico and you'd be like, everything is flour tortillas, or, it's like, thankfully corn tortillas are usually easy to come by, but so many foods, the cheese like makes the dish. Same
Right.
thing, it's like, obviously Europe is so heavy on, bread and cheese and stuff. So it's just like, those just wouldn't be fun places to go to for me, because it would be so much anxiety about like, oh, can I do this? Can I not? But same thing. It's like, especially if you're going somewhere like even Japan, I would have a little bit of hesitation, because so much sushi, or so many sauces will be like teriyaki and soy sauce, and then there'll be, like hidden wheat and stuff. And so it does add an extra layer, because I'm actually the opposite. I would rather mostly cook in to save money, but then I would rather take that money and then spend it on experiences and doing
Mhm.
stuff while I'm in the country. So in Belize, for example, we did jet surfing, which was basically, you had a motocross engine that was almost in a surfboard. And I think it would go up to 39 miles per hour. And so basically, you would have on a life vest, and you would take the pin, stick it in the engine, and you basically had 10 seconds to like flail your body on top of the jet surfboard before it would just like take off. And so you're going, and if at any point you hit that trigger with your finger, you're going to fly off like Super Mario, just like, and so I did lessons. And so the first hour lesson was just like eating shit in the water and just, like stop, start. And then the second hour, once you have it figured out, was super fun. But it's like, it was like the lessons were a couple $100s per hour, but it was
Mhm.
literally the best money I spent that entire time. So it's like, I'm a big fan of, I want to figure out what the cool things to do there are. And then I also want to figure out like, what are the cool places, or like, what is this place known for? So it's like,
Mhm.
my big thing actually, before I knew that I couldn't really hang with gluten, was I used to do a lot of donuts. So like, let's say I came to California, it's like, well, I would go to California Donuts, and like I would make like this 3-hour trip to like secure the donuts and like Instagram them. And California Donuts, it's actually located like right outside Hollywood, but their big thing is that all of their donuts, they have like these panda shaped ones, or they're just like, they're really cute and really Instagrammable. So I always used to look for stuff like that whenever I would travel. So like Thrillist is a big website I live and die by if I'm looking for like restaurants, things to do, because people will write little blogs or just like, hey, go here, don't go here, it's not worth the hype. So it's like, my advice, no matter where you go and travel, is figure out like what you're going to do with your food, in terms of, do you want to save money? Do you want to cook in? Do you want to get like an Airbnb or hotel? Or reversely, do you want to go out to eat a bunch? But like I said, it just depends, because when we were in Belize, we ended up dining out. It was usually 20 to 30 bucks per meal. I think we went for like 5 days. And so we could just get a giant plate of like seafood, and it would either be fish, shrimp, lobster, any sort of thing. So we would do that. We would get tons of vegetables, rice. Very similar to Costa Rica, their big thing was you could get these almost like little rotisserie chickens. So it was
Mhm.
their dish was quite literally anywhere you went, including even these little. They were almost like 7-Eleven gas stations, but it was like you could get chicken, you could get rice, you could get vegetable and beans, and it would literally be like $5 American, which
Yeah.
their money is actually animals. And so we didn't know what the money was called, but like I was with, seminar staff. And so we would all be in the grocery stores or the restaurants, and we would just be yelling like whatever money it was that we needed. So it'd be like, hey, I got a Sharknado. Can you give me a monkey dollar? And I'm sure like these people are just like, what? But that was like, I still actually kept one of them. I have one of the Sharknadoes, aka I think it's like the $2 colones, has like sharks on it. But yeah,
It's
like
like,
all the
sounds like
money
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
literally, but like the money was so cool. And then you're like, man, America's so boring with our money system.
Well, I was gonna ask you, yeah, like how did you eat in Belize? Because I've traveled with you, and I've something I noticed that you do, and maybe you can talk about this, is like you will go to restaurants and you will specifically order like whatever, like it's not on the menu. You will just be like, can I give me shrimp and rice and vegetables? Like you will do that. Like tell us more about that, because I think a lot of people don't know you can do that.
Yeah. So the thing is, at the end of the day, like I worked in a restaurant for a really long time. So if a restaurant carries something, they will sell it to you. And so maybe you're looking at the menu and there isn't a dish that's just like the exact protein, the exact carb, the exact vegetable, fat, etc. that you want. But most places will let you substitute, or most places will let you just kind of make your own meal. So it's like, hey, I see there's a dish and it has grilled shrimp. Hey, I see there's another dish that it has tons of rice, and then hey, I can order a side of grilled veggies. And so it's like I always just tell the waiter, it's like, hey, charge this however you need to charge this in the system, but like can I kind of make my own meal? And at the end of the day, it's like most people understand if you have food allergies. Like it would be different if you were also just like, hey, I want to be a royal pain in your ass. But if you're like, hey, listen, like I have a lot of food allergies and I'm not quite seeing anything on the menu that works for me, like how can we work together?
Yeah.
But I will say be careful with that, because in Costa Rica, we would always eat at the breakfast place that was in our hotel. And I will still never forget, because everybody that was traveling with seminar staff, we were all just kind of like broke coaches, like living paycheck to paycheck. And so we did this the first day because I think the meal only had it was like 2 or 3 eggs. And we were like, hey, can we each like get an extra egg, or maybe like 2 extra eggs? And the waiter was like, yeah, no problem. Well, apparently these chickens were like the golden roosters and the golden chickens, because I think they charge us, it was like $10 per extra scrambled egg or something. So we got our bill, and everybody got these bills for like $100, but like the actual meal was like a couple eggs, a slice of toast. Like it wasn't a lot of food. So I will just give the disclaimer. It's like, work with the restaurants also to make sure that doesn't happen, because also it's like, our waiters were mostly speaking another language and we didn't have a translator with us. So it's like it all the way around, we were just like, shoot, like we fucked up, and it's okay. But yeah, I do that all the time, where it's like I will look at the menu and just see, hey, can I substitute different things to make the meal exactly what I do want it to be?
Yeah, I find that's probably easier in the States, like than abroad. But I mean, when I was in Mexico and definitely Europe, there were a lot of restaurants that did cater, and they did have like different options. They may not have said like gluten free in there, but you could see that it was gluten free. There were gluten free options for sure. So I mean, don't let your food sensitivities or allergies like turn you off from traveling, because you can still do it.
And
Just gotta be a little bit more
like,
careful.
yeah, it's pick your battles too, right?
Right.
Like again, I would personally rather spend my money on coffee and experiences, but mutually, like I said, there's so many places. Like each city or each country that you go to is going to be known for something. So it's like, by all means, like go experience the food. And I also think too, there's something to be said for like, the more mom and pop, or the more like hole in the wall it looks, probably the better the food. Like that is a very real thing. So it's like, don't be afraid. Like ask the locals. Like that's something I always do when I travel, is it's like, where should we go? Where are the best things to do? Because again, it's like what you hear from a lot of people, like the touristy things may not actually be the best things. And so even when we were in Hawaii, that was what we did, was we asked people, and it changed what we ended up doing. We were so happy that we did that,
Yeah. But you usually will cook though on trips. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it saves money too, is the thing. So in Hawaii, if we could go back and do it again, I wish that we would have stayed at a resort, because we ended up walking into some resort just to like check it out. And then we like looked around and we're like, oh, we fucked up. Like this would have been way cooler, because the resort backed up to the beach and it was just super dope. But yeah, when we were in Hawaii, we chose to do an Airbnb. And that was the one time that I was like, ooh, I wish I didn't, we would have done this different. But for the most part, it's like, I always want to have a hotel, or a hotel with a kitchenette. So when you're booking, it's like you might end up being at an extended stay hotel or something like that, but it's like, to be able to cook is life changing, because same thing, it's like you're going to have a freezer, you're going to have a fridge, and you can split that too. It's like picking and choosing your battles. And I think part of that also just comes to too, I was always like budget traveling. It wasn't like, just out here balling. It was like, hi, I'm a CrossFit coach and I make $25 a class. So like, how do I figure out, how to ball in a budget and stuff like that. So that was definitely a big one. And same with like when I would road trip. I actually used to be a territory rep for a supplement company. And so I used to go to a lot of the places. Like I went to like Louisiana, Kansas City is actually really dope, which that never would have been on my radar of like places to go. But I was very blown away by like really cool food, really cool gyms and stuff out there as well. So it's like my staples when I travel are definitely, can I have a place that I can cook? But then what am I also doing for the gym? Because for me, it's just like, if I don't go to the gym and I don't lift, I'm really sad. Like it's just a part of my day, and it's kind of this constant that keeps everything in check. So certainly if I know I'm going to be somewhere and just like walking everywhere, then yeah, I might skip it. But for the most part, it's like one of my favorite things is dropping into gyms in other cities. So like the one that comes to mind is like where we would go in Miami. Was that Elevate?
I can't remember, but yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like just super dope gyms. So I think that's always cool, is I love checking out, whether it's CrossFit gyms, whether it's like strength training and bodybuilding gyms. That's actually something that I love doing while traveling, is like checking out what we have to work with. But I mean, even when we went to Florida together, it's like we worked out in the little gym.
The little hotel gym. Yeah. Yeah.
And your mom outlifted me.
Yeah, I think it's important too. Like if you want to continue, well, first, I don't stress about getting workouts if I'm vacationing. If I'm traveling, that's a different story. Like if it's like a work trip, that's a different story. Like I'm gonna train. Like I always, if I'm work traveling, if I can, I'll pack workout clothes. If I'm going somewhere where I know there's jujitsu, I'll pack my gi, I'll pack my rash guards and stuff like that. But I don't try to stress too much about like workouts while I'm vacationing. Like if I book a place that has a gym, or if I Google and there's gyms close by and I can fit it in, then I will, go train. But honestly, like if I'm vacationing, I'm going to be doing active stuff anyways. And I think that's like one of my like bare minimums is like, I am going to move every day. Whether it's like, hey, I'm going to go walk all around this town and see everything, or I'm going to go to the ocean and go snorkeling. I'm going to do something active, and I'm just going to count that as my movement. And I'm not going to stress about like missing workouts really.
Totally. Well, and it's like, again, how do you want to feel when you're traveling, and what are you trying to get out of it? Because it's like, It's totally okay too if you are that person that you're like, actually, I do just want to lay around at the beach and I want to do nothing. Then like, by all means do it. But I think for me, it's like, I normally any other time in my life, it's like, travel is so normal for me that I'm never really breaking routine. And therefore I'm always like still hitting the gym, doing all that stuff. Which, again, it's just like, I think that's such a big part of travel is how do I want to feel during, while I'm there? And then also like, am I going to be okay with my decisions when I get back from travel also? Because, especially it's like, Alex, you probably can talk about this more, but how many people have an all or nothing mindset about travel where it's like, hey, I live life like this, but then I go travel and,
it's like how Stella got her groove back, man. Like just it's complete wilding out. Now, like, I mean, I think a lot of people do approach, at least from a vacation standpoint, like, it's going ham, right? Like they're going to drink all the drinks. They're going to eat all the food. They're not going to sleep. They're not going to take care of themselves. And then they get back and feel like shit, right? And then that's where I think a lot of like the spiral, the cycle starts, because then they come back and they feel really poorly. And then usually what ends up happening is people will do something extreme, drastic to try to counteract that. And then it kind of continues again with that kind of cyclical pattern of all or nothing, going to be super strict, and then go on vacation and go ham. when, your vacation can still be a time where you enjoy yourself and you also come back feeling really, really good and not actually regretting the things that you did while you're on vacation. Because like I've heard so many times people go on vacation, they're like, oh my God, I shouldn't have gone on vacation because I, gained so much weight and I feel terrible. And then you start like negatively associating taking a vacation and having fun with, this bullshit. So I think that that's something that a lot of people do, and it doesn't have to be that way.
And I think it also takes time is the biggest thing too. It's like if you are somebody that you have kind of made that association of like, hey, when I go on vacation or when I travel, it is all or nothing. It's not just going to happen in one trip that you're able to find the happy medium. And so, again, we'll reference our friend like Kate Lyman, where she talks about minimums and just having some, basically her concept is like, hey, you have these minimums that just do these things and then let it be enough. Right. And so for me, my minimums would be like, hey, can I hit like body weight in grams of protein per day? Or maybe if I'm not tracking, can I have a really big serving of protein, breakfast, lunch, dinner? Can I have a couple, protein bars or jerky, as snacks throughout the day to make sure I'm getting enough protein? I'm not even going to pretend like I prioritize sleep because I don't. So that would be a great minimum. I don't.
But that's a great point because it's got to be something that you're. So the concept of bare minimums, like I talk about as well with my clients, like it needs to be something that you are very confident about doing. Like, and it should be something that you already pretty much do. Like for me, like I'm going to move daily. Like I said, like earlier, I don't care if I get like a workout in a gym. I'm going to still move my body on a daily basis somehow. That's a minimum to me. And it's not something that is negotiable really. And then like for me, like I'm going to eat some fruits and vegetables because I just feel better doing it. Like I'm not going to sit there and just live on bread and cheese the whole time. Like give me some tomatoes on that joint. Like, right. Like so I'm going to make it in it. And I try to keep it as flexible as possible. Not really like if it's too rigid, you're probably not going to stick to it. So be willing to like, change directions if you need to do it. And if you had these intentions upon doing more, then maybe do less and it's okay.
Totally. Well, because how many people are, it's like they track their macros 24/7, 365. They weigh and measure. They go to the gym. They weigh themselves every day. And there's all these things. And then they end up just being anxious when they travel because they completely like try to go the other way. So it's really just paving the way for like, how do you meet in the middle? What are habits you can commit to that will make you feel good? So the one that came to mind is it's like, if you don't get enough fiber while you travel, you're going to have a bad time in the bathroom, right? Yeah. So it's like, ironically, a lot of my minimums, I don't. A lot of my minimums tend to be ones that ironically are also kind of self-corrective, where it's like, hey, it only takes one day of not doing this thing for it to self-correct itself. And I make sure to do it the next day because, if you don't get enough fiber, well, then your digestion gets off. And so you quickly want to rectify that, right? Or same thing. It's like, well, if you don't get enough protein, maybe you're feeling super hungry, even though, you've eaten enough food. So it's like when you set these minimums, let it be stuff that you just know makes you feel good. And again, it's like, how do you get in bed with like, have a really good time, but I do these minimums so that you're not necessarily continuing to still work towards your goals, but we're not like going backwards either. It's just like, we're just kind of almost maintaining or we're hovering where we're at, I think is a really great approach for most people. Because it's just like, how do you do those things? Travel can be really fun. It doesn't have to be a mental spiral, but it can be. It can cause a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, and I mean, again, if you think about it, it's only like we're not vacationing. Well, some people do travel for work a lot, but if we're talking about like a vacation, we're not going on vacation like every week. So it really shouldn't be something that's like wrecks your whole year. It's only a small amount of time. So you got to be okay with just, like you said, maintaining and not necessarily like making any progress. That's fine, but just maintaining is totally fine.
Alex, when you went to Thailand, what were the common foods you were eating while you were there? Like, what are the staples there in the country?
Lots of curry, lots of noodles, nudes. I love
Nudes.
nudes. uh, lots of rice. They do eat a lot of vegetables and fruit. Lots of fruit. Lots of fruit. It wasn't hard to eat healthy in Thailand for sure.
Did you eat bugs while you were there?
No, but I definitely so we saw bugs everywhere. They are very common in many parts of the world, but I did not eat any, and now I kind of want to go back and eat some.
Nope.
So there was definitely people selling like grilled scorpions and things like that. Those are more like kind of touristy type things, but in the markets they definitely were selling like a lot of like cooked bugs. Okay. So yeah.
And you were there for 2 weeks. Do you happen to remember how much money roughly you spent? Because I feel like Thailand was a very cheap trip compared. I mean, like if you went 2 weeks somewhere else, like that could be pricey. But I feel like
I don't exactly remember. I want to say close to like 2,000, but maybe a little bit more than that. I didn't really keep great track of it, but I do know that our hotels, we were staying at like 5-star hotels for what it would be, maybe equivalent of like 150 a night, like type stuff, like per person, right? So not at all that crazy expensive compared to what you would have to pay in America. Food was super cheap. Most things were super cheap in Thailand. Thailand's a pretty affordable place. But if you go to Thailand, you can make it expensive, but you can also go on a really good budget too. So,
what was the primary language there? Did most people speak English?
Thai. Okay. I mean, any place like that has a lot of tourists, English is kind of the language of tourism. So, they're gonna speak at a tourist level of English. Yeah. So I honestly didn't have any problems communicating. I've traveled other places. I haven't had any problems communicating. Like I went to Colombia. Like I know some Spanish, but I think it's helpful to know some Spanish in Colombia. But I also went by without like running into a whole lot of trouble not speaking fluently the language.
Totally. Well, and it depends where you're at too. I was laughing because I haven't taken Spanish since 7th grade, but I know all the important, especially like working in restaurants. I know all the important Spanish of like no me toques, aka don't touch me. La biblioteca, la mochila,
yeah.
Duolingo Spanish, basically. When you went to Colombia, what were some of your favorite places that you went or things that you saw?
So I went to Medellin, and also went to Guatapé, which is like a town outside of Medellin. There's a bunch of lakes and stuff. That was awesome. Getting there was a little bit rough, and getting back was a little bit rougher. But if you don't have crazy travel experiences like when you're abroad, that's just kind of what makes traveling. But Medellin was awesome. Actually, my tutor Maria is from there, and so one night, a couple of days, like we went up to her parents. They call it a finca. Basically, it's like a little farm, and this is where her parents live. And then stayed there and got to experience like just the countryside Colombian culture, which was awesome. So.
I think one of my favorites, when we went to Costa Rica, we were in Escazú, which is basically, I believe it's actually the like capital city or whatever, but it is definitely one of the more poor cities in Costa Rica. I think a lot of times people assume Costa Rica and they're like, oh, like surfing and beaches. And it's like, well, there are parts of Costa Rica that are very city-like. And then there are places in Costa Rica that are very much not that. And so I still, to this day, CrossFit 506, it was the first CrossFit gym founded in Costa Rica. And so It was, and this was back like 2014 before it was kind of a thing for like CrossFit gyms to be really nice. And so they had these like premium showers, and same thing, they would do fresh smoothies. And I still like daydream about this because they would quite literally walk outside, go like harvest whatever fruits they were going to like put in your smoothie and then make it. And like, oh my gosh. There's also, I wish I knew what this place was, but we basically drove up a mountain, and we didn't just like, people that can't see what I'm doing with my hands, it was like you drove like around the mountain all the way to the top. You didn't just like drive up it, but we ate at this place that overlooked the entire, basically like a 360 view of Costa Rica. And so same thing, it was like the line would be hours and hours long, but it was just the most beautiful place. And so obviously we have all these like dope like selfies from 2013, 2014. But like I said, it's like that isn't a type of place that we probably would have found on our own. So really it's like the best recommendations you'll get from stuff is usually going to be from people that have been there versus, just kind of trying to Google, or like Reddit can actually be a really good place to get
Reddit's
recommendations for travel. And like I mentioned earlier, like Thrillist, something that people could check out too, like especially if you're like, dang, like I don't have anybody to travel with. Solo travel can be really great. We obviously do have to be careful if we're a female, depending on where we're going. But something that Alex and I have kind of talked about was like, do we do Trova trips? So basically what Trova trip is this company will plan trips for you. And so you're able to, like, when Alex goes to Egypt, he's actually going on Jen and Nicole's Trova trip. And so basically you might pay a couple $1,000s, but they plan out everything for you, and you're able to travel with friends. So you might travel with, 8 or 10 people. But Trova trip, especially if you don't have somebody to travel with and stuff, I would say check that out, because you can go, like our friend Bethany books trips all the time to really cool places, and you're just able to skip that learning curve, because it's like you're going to have tour guides. They're going to have an itinerary planned out each day. And usually I think the Trova trips are generally a little bit longer. So they might be like 5 to 10 days, but it's like you could go to places like Bali, like Iceland, and again, have guides, have an itinerary. Like Alex is going to be riding camels in freaking Egypt.
Apparently we're sleeping on a boat on the Nile. So if I get eaten by a crocodile, this is what's, like if I don't come back, my ass got eaten by a crocodile.
Oh, that's so cool though. Do you have any, like, what are your bucket list places aside from obvious like Egypt will be huge for you, but where else do you want to?
So I'm part Chinese, and I would have loved to go to China because my family is from China. But my family is actually from Wuhan, where COVID came from.
Wild.
I know. So, like, I would have loved to go there. I know my mom was wanting to go there for years, but I don't think that's going to be in the cards anymore.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna say they are having a tough time.
Yeah,
right now.
We're not. I don't even think we can even go to China unless you have like good reason to. But would definitely love to go to Japan. And we have a friend there, Bethany. So I would definitely love to go to like East Asia for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I want to go to all the places that the barrier of entry to me would be, as somebody with ADHD, and like I'm just not good at sitting, and so even like a 7 or 8 hour flight is really tough for me. So to be like, hey, 30 hour flight, I'd be like, bless it. But I would love to go to like New Zealand, Australia. So many of those places, it's like I want to go big if I'm gonna travel. Like I want to do that. But I would definitely, like I said, it's like I would need to carefully plan out how I did that, because that'd be tough. How do you normally, like, because I assume that most of your trips have probably been a little bit lengthier flights. So like how do you stay busy during your flights? And like, do you listen to podcasts? Do you just work all the time? Like what do you do on longer flights?
I mean, man, thankfully now we have the internet, because back before the internet, I don't know what people did. They watched that stupid ass, like whatever they were showing on the plane at the time. Like it'd be some like Rugrats movie, right? But, I I just watch a lot of movies, honestly. I watch a lot of movies. I bring my computer usually on trips, so I like to play computer games, things like that. I mean, I'll sleep and stuff. I have a hard time sleeping on a plane, but I take, obviously things like melatonin to help me sleep. Z-Quil. I definitely got to pack the Z-Quil to help me sleep on a plane. Actually, it's cool. I use this app on the longer trips, like for when I went to Portugal. I use this app called Time Shifter, and it helps you basically build out a plan for jet lag to like prevent jet lag. So you just basically follow this plan. So I tried to follow the plan like exactly on the way there, and I didn't have any problems once I got there. So it tells you like when to sleep, when to wake up, when to drink coffee, a caffeine or whatever. So I just followed that. Yeah.
That was something I didn't expect with Hawaii, because in California, we're already like behind the world anyway, right? It's like, Eastern time is already several hours ahead of us. And Hawaii was several hours behind California. So it's like somebody that's trying to post to social media every day. It's like the time change stuff messed us up hard on the way there and also on the way back. So it's like, I wish I would have texted you to ask what that app was, because it was like I went in dry on that trip, and like it did not serve me. Literally chewed me up, spit me out. I was messed up.
Yeah, jet lag's a bitch, like for real. Especially coming back. I think from if you're coming from the west to east, it's worse. So yeah, I would definitely check that app out. It's called Time Shifter.
Alex, what was your favorite? Because you're more of a travel backpack type person. I haven't really seen you do tons of like luggage. So what's your favorite travel backpack these days?
Yeah. So I use a Osprey. It's called a Osprey Porter 45. They make different models, but I love it. I bought it for my Thailand trip because traveling with a rolling bag is not a good idea if you're going to multiple places. If you're like going to multiple places, multiple cities, you want to pack light. Like, don't overpack. So I like this backpack because I can pack a bunch of stuff in it. Like I can pack like a week and a half or so worth of clothes and all of my other stuff, and I can just do laundry in these places. I use like travel packing cubes. I think you were the one that told me about those. Yeah, these little Ziploc things where you just fold your clothes in there, and it keeps everything nice and neat and organized, and is super easy. If you do not have travel packing cubes, you are fucking up.
And it's funny because I was going to ask you, do you still use the travel cube? So I
Absolutely.
love that. We're on the same wavelength.
100%.
I'm dying because I don't think you heard this story, but when Charlie and I went to Hawaii, because we were going to be there for so many days and we knew that we were going to like do a lot of things. So it was like we had our trail hiking shoes, we had so much clothes and outfits and stuff. And so we had the big old luggage. Like, it's my favorite luggage is from the company Away. They come in really cool colors, but it's super lightweight. You can it just has so many like features that are so helpful, but it's like I've had luggage before where you're like, this piece of shit. Like, it's just a pain to carry on the airplane. It's a pain to, do stuff with. But so we packed up this big old luggage because we were like, oh, well, we'll just put both of our stuff in it and then, just have a backpack with basically like food and a laptop. Well, I almost said we ducked up. I'm going to say we goofed up. Two reasons here, because we were like, hey, we can't get into the place we're staying until 5 p.m. Why don't we like go grab lunch? We'll walk around and then we'll just, grab a lift to our place whenever we're able to get in. Well, what we quickly learned in the part of Hawaii that we went to is that you could get lifts and Ubers all day long if you were at the airport. You couldn't do that if you left the airport. So quite literally, we spent 2 hours trying to call an Uber, trying to call Lyft, and it would be like trying to connect with a driver. And then it would just like keep refreshing over and over. So think about that before you travel. And again, like do the research, because it was like anybody that we talked to was like, oh yeah, like don't do that. But like, we just didn't know. So same thing. Well, 2 hours later, we can't get a ride. So we're like, okay, I think we were like 1.5 miles from where we were staying, which that's not a terrible walk. Like that's definitely a long walk. But it is when there's no roads or sidewalks and you have this giant luggage. And so poor Charlie, I like am dying inside because military Charlie just takes the big old luggage and it wasn't light also. Like we had packed it to the brim.
Well, yeah,
and
yeah.
and he is carrying it like on his head and on his back. And I'm just like, oh, bless it. Which thankfully, like, God bless, one of the locals saw us and like scooped us up and was like, hey, let me like drop you off. Because I guess that's a super common thing that, like I said, like people just don't realize is it's like in our world, we were like, oh, that's cool that like Lyft is here. And ironically, I guess we found out the person who founded Lyft was actually lived in the same exact city where we couldn't get an Uber or Lyft, which is hilarious. But
wow, they moved there.
right? Like so remote level 5,000. So yeah, like you said, a lot of times if you're catching flights and you have to take like a mini flight between cities or between countries, you're gonna lose your bag at some point and you're not gonna like you're doomed. So I think that's a huge one. But equal parts, I never used to be somebody that checked bags, but if I'm flying just like within the US, we almost always fly Southwest because you get 2 checked bags. So you will have to pay extra if you're flying and you're trying to travel with like a snowboard or skis or like snow gear. There's usually going to be same thing surfboards. It's usually like 60 to 80 bucks to like check that type of bag. But Southwest is great if you know that you like need to take a lot of stuff. So I love Southwest flights, although I feel like in 2023 it's a gamble of, am I going to have Wi-Fi on this flight? Yes, no, and it's been a lot of in the zeros, unfortunately. But Alex, what travel credit cards do you have, if any?
Oh yeah, I use that. So I just got it. I use a Chase Sapphire. There's a lot of travel credit cards out there, but this one was like the most recommended. But if you travel frequently, definitely would get a travel card, because when I was traveling before, I didn't have one and I was getting just absolutely murdered on the foreign transaction fees. And that's every time that you buy something and you use your card. And it depends on the country, but I don't like to carry around a lot of cash because I'll lose it. And I don't think it's safe.
Yeah.
So credit cards usually the way to go if you can use a credit card, but you don't want to pay all those fees. So like something like a travel card, one, you won't have to pay the fees. Two, you can get points. So I pay for flights just with using my card, and I got points to go travel. So it kind of just pays for itself.
Dude, 2022, I didn't pay for a single flight because it was all just
all
points. Because I'm that person. Like I will like hoard my points. It doesn't matter if it's like Sephora, if it's travel. It's like I love racking up the points, and at some point I'm like, okay. But in 2022, I traveled a decent bit, and I didn't pay for a single flight because it was all points. So
I wish I had gotten a points card earlier.
It depends it depends like where you're trying to go and what you want to do too. Cause it's like, it wasn't until this past year I got a Southwest, card for the points. Cause I was like, this is now only what I fly. But so I have the Southwest credit card, like the one for business. And then I also have the American Express Platinum. So it's the like silver. It's the one that's really heavy. I have that for business as well. And so it's nice because you can get points on hotel, you can get points on flights. And it's like you can just rack them up. And so depending on where you're traveling, I would kind of look, because it's like if I was flying back and forth between like Dallas, for example, if I was using my points with American Express, I could only fly into DFW, which is like super far away, versus if I would use my points from Southwest, well, then I could fly into Love Field, which would be like 10 minutes, to where I was trying to go. And so it's like learning how to game the system is for sure huge. But it's like you're gonna pay for the flight regardless, so like get some points and accrue it. But I'm trying to think, there used to be I think it still exists. I want to say it was called cheapdfw.com. And so basically, it was a blog that all they would do is for the city of Dallas, they would let you know, and they were on Instagram, like all social media, but basically, all they would do is post, hey, if you want to go to insert the blank place, tickets on this date are going to be like $67. So it's like find that equivalent of wherever
Austin
you
too.
live.
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah. So I think a lot of cities have those Instagram accounts where it's like they keep track of when the cheap flights are going to be, and it's usually like a window. So yeah, and then if you're flexible, you can. I love Google Flights. I can just play around with the dates, and that's kind of how I can figure out like when's the cheapest flight, when's the cheapest time to go.
I was gonna say I'm definitely Google Flights is usually my go-to. I've a lot of things I've learned about travel is like learning from experience, and so the biggie is that I don't mess with Spirit Airlines. And what's the other? Is it Frontier?
Allegiant.
Yeah. So there's the three: Spirit, Allegiant, and Frontier. All of those, because they're kind of known as like budget airlines, you will get dicked on everything. So it'll be like, you can't even bring a bag. Like, I think one of the flights, quite literally, I packed everything in a bag and I like did check it. And then I was like, okay, like I'll just have my backpack with my laptop. And then they charged me. It was like, yo, if you want to take us on the flight, it'll be like $40 or $45. I was like, what? So just keep in mind, like I automatically filter those airlines out when I'm searching because a lot of them also, they'll like get delayed, they'll get canceled, but like you're going to be like this in the airplane rather than like having space to like spread out. In addition to, it might end up being more expensive because it's like, well, if your bag is $40 each way, you're basically adding, $80-$100 to whatever that ticket.
It almost costs the same. Like, yeah, it almost costs the same to fly one of those if you're bringing a bag. Yeah. So,
what's your favorite airline?
Oh, Alaska. Alaska's dope, man.
Really?
Yes, I will fly Alaska because one, I don't know, they're just nice. They're just super nice on the plane, and then also they have I don't know. They just have good like options on the plane. They have like these good like snack boxes you can buy, and they're not super expensive. I don't know. I've just always had a great experience on Alaska. I don't know.
Have you ever flown Virgin? I don't even know if it still exists anymore.
Yeah, I think it does, but I don't know any. I've never flown Virgin,
so I don't remember where or when I like took it. I just remember that when you got on the airplane, they had like purple LED lights, and there was like almost like this fog, and whatever it was
Sounds
like
very you.
it was very it just felt very like bougie and like very cool. But I don't know if that airline even like exists anymore. If it like went out of business or something.
I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah.
I tend. It's funny because my mom was like booking a flight to come to California, and she very passionately hates American Airlines. And I was like, that's weird. Like I've actually, for the most part, I've had good experiences with American Airlines, and then Delta is the one that's always just like middle finger. But then I talk to other people and they feel the opposite. And I'm like, that's super interesting. But, have you ever flown JetBlue?
No, I've never.
So JetBlue's common if you're going from like basically like Texas to New York, and kind of like you were talking about like snacks. Their thing is they'll always have like popcorners, like the chips, and then they also have the brownie brittle. Like they'd be passing out bags of that, and you'd be like, "Yo, I'm gonna fly JetBlue forever." Like I get good snacks, not just like the biscotti cookies that like if I ate one of those, it'd kill me, man.
And they're like 300 calories, man. They're so like those two little tiny ass little cookies. They're like, what?
I do always have a moment of anxiety because they're always trying to hand you snacks, and it'll be like, here's your little peanuts, here's your like trim, and I'm like, please just no, please don't do that. When you travel present day, Alex, do you normally bring a bunch of food and snacks with like to the airport and on the airplane, or do you just wing it and buy food from like the convenience stores?
I used to be a packer, but I usually don't want to carry all that stuff anymore. So I'll just bring a few things like like protein bars. You can't bring liquids, obviously, onto the plane. Like you can't go through security with liquids, but I'll just usually bring like some protein bars. That's usually all I get. I will do airport food. Again, like I'm pretty flexible with how I eat, so I'm gonna find something that's like doable. Maybe pay $20 for something that you would normally pay like 10 for. But if I have a long layover, there's usually like some kind of restaurant where I'll go and order, a meat and vegetable. So I mean, I'm not gonna be super super stressed out trying to pack all this stuff into my bag when I'm trying to get all this stuff to pack for the trip.
You just haven't gotten dicked by enough flights yet. That's what it is. Because I used to be that way. I used to just like free spirit wing it, and then I ended up sad and hungry because you'd be like, "Oh, cool! This airport only has Burger King and McDonald's. Lit."
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've eaten Burger King and McDonald's at airports. I'll just go for it. I think just for me, it's just like I'd rather just be flexible and I'll make it work. Like I remember in what was it? Maybe San Jose Airport, they had like a Hardee's or they have Carl's Jr. in California.
Oh, hell yeah.
I got like a burger, but I got like the lettuce. You could get like the lettuce wrap or whatever. And I don't care for the bread, man. I just want the meat, so, and I just made that work and it was fine. And I think that's how I rather prefer traveling.
I hope I get to be fun in my next lifetime. Like literally being gluten-free, dairy-free literally is the most depressing thing. Cause it's like it's like it becomes so botched and so makeshift. I do remember there was one, it was when my food allergy stuff was just like really, really bad. And so I remember I ended up going to like 4 or 5 different food places, but I was able to like assemble a meal because it's like, oh, well, if I go this place, I can like get a couple chicken breasts. If I go to this place, I can get like sweet potato fries. And so I would like hodgepodge stuff. But now I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have time for that. I don't have energy for that. So I'm definitely like,
yeah. And you bring those faster bags and stuff too, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll do a lot of, I'll go on Amazon and I'll get the Tupperware that's like reusable. So just kind of like the plastic containers, which not ideal. Like obviously, sure, I'd love to travel with glass, but I don't care that much, right? So I'll usually travel with little like meal prep containers or do sandwich baggies the stasher bag depends because I'm going to need to wash the stasher bag or it's going to get rank like real fast, right? It'd be like if you kind of like if you like don't clean out a protein shaker, like it's gonna smell. So if I'm traveling somewhere and I'm not gonna have access to a kitchen, I would just do sandwich baggies and basically take a bunch of stuff. But I'm definitely the opposite. It's like I've been dicked enough times while travel, whether it was flights that got super delayed or canceled altogether. I've thankfully never slept overnight in an airport, but I've definitely had ones where you're like, cool, I'm gonna go somewhere and then drive back, a couple hours later or stuff. So I've definitely had that happen. But yeah, I would rather bring food for the entire day. And then I also pack a lot of like snacks and stuff like that too. So it's like I prepare like somebody would if they had a child, except the child is like me. So I definitely bring all the food. I will pack everything either in one of the smaller Lululemon totes, or like if Charlie and I are traveling, we'll actually do a big Lululemon tote. And it ends up being dope because again, it's like you just have the option to do whatever you want. Hey, turns out there's cool food places. Great. And you can travel with ice packs if it's going to be, like a super long flight or stuff like that. It just has to be frozen when you go through actual security, which if you can travel, buy all the things, get global entry, which means that basically you end up getting TSA pre-check as a byproduct, right? Yeah. I don't remember the price of Clear. I want to say Clear is like $179. Maybe it's gone up. But when you have all of those ways to basically get through the airport faster, it's like it takes 2 to 3 minutes to get through security. So like I'm the person that if my flight is at 3:30, I want to like walk up to my gate as it's boarding, which is funny because it's like my parents are the opposite. Like my Midwest parents are like, I'm gonna get to the airport 4 hours early, and I'm like, absolutely not. So I'm definitely like, I choose violence and I'll like push it. But I'll tell you what, man, like I don't get stressed when I travel. Charlie will push it to the point that like you ain't gonna make it on the plane, and I'm just like, my dude. The very first time we traveled, I was like, okay, learning experience. Let's have an agreement on when we're leaving, how early we're getting there, because like I said, it's like I like to have about a 5 to 10 minutes of I just don't want to waste time being at the airport. But mutually, if you are traveling to other countries, like you do have to be there super early. So especially if you're going through customs or you're dealing with all that, like your ass better be early to that flight. And I think the most common mistake we make is that if you're checking a bag, typically most airlines have like a 45 to 60 minute cutoff of like, you have to have your bag an hour before. So just always like when you're traveling, especially if it's a new airline, read the website and double check yourself. Cause we've done that where it'd be like, shit. Because what'll happen is you go to check your bag and it'll be like, this may not arrive on time. And you're like, shit. So another thing we do is we always put one of those Apple AirTags in our checked luggage and in our bags so that if they go missing or if you like leave it somewhere, you're able to kind of keep tabs and figure out. Really yeah, that was a Charlie travel hack. I never did that. And I was like, oh, that is excellent. That's super smart. So I super love that. What else?
I don't know. We're coming up on over an hour now. So yeah.
Ooh, and we were going to try to keep this short. Trying to think. We're the worst at this. Well, let's close this out, Alex. Obviously, you're going to go to Egypt, but I feel like especially after like the 2023 I've had, we need to go somewhere cool. So like, where would be the next place you want to like travel to this year, you think?
I don't know.
Make it somewhere warm.
I honestly like I really do want to go to Japan because I know Bethany's over there. It can get warm over there, but I really want to go to Japan. Like that's definitely on my list.
They opened the borders. I think it was like this past fall too. Good to go. So that's dope.
Yeah, we good, baby. We good.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, hi Bethany, we're coming to see you. Hello.
I think she would love it. She would love it, man.
Yeah. I just need sunshine right now. Like I know Texas has been great, but like California, we are still living in a cloud. Like the forecast again this week is like next 2 weeks, clouds.
I've heard for you, like, can you remember Aaron, right? Celiac. Yeah, celiac. She posted she went to Greece and she has celiac and she was able to do fine. And I've seen some dope pictures from Greece. And that would also be, I mean, if you want sunshine, you're on the Mediterranean, you got all those islands. That's probably where it's at.
I mean, especially as somebody that loved playing like Assassin's Creed, which takes place in like Rome, my inner nerd would be thriving. Dear gosh, that's not. Yeah, I'm into that. Well, I hope that y'all loved today's episode. We just want something a little more casual and something that also just wasn't like super nutrition and fitness oriented. Because like I said, it's like travel is something I didn't do a ton of as a kid. We just didn't grow up with money. My parents were divorced. And so it's like once I started traveling, it was like I started orienting my entire life on like, hey, how can I save all my pennies and like go ball in a budget and, see other places. So I think that's the cool part about travel is it changes your perspective on a lot of things and also sometimes like gives you a good gut check because it's like we're so comfortable in America and then you go to other countries and just kind of take it all in and it's easy to just take for granted all the things we do have in America sometimes. So I think one of the best advices I can give for people is it's like book solo trips or just get out of the country, and it will change your whole life, and hopefully it's something you fall in love with, because truly, it's like, Alex, you can speak to this, but it's like, if I could, yeah, I'm still on I think a few years from now, I would love to just like move every 3 to 6 months and like go somewhere and catch me in Bali, catch me in Australia the next 3 months or something. Like that would be me living my best life. But I also just love chaos, and I love stirring my pot. But, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, same. I definitely plan on traveling a lot more. I would like to at some point spend some time in Latin America for sure, and get better at my Espanol.
Once you've got like a 3,000 day streak in Duolingo. Well, awesome chatting with you today, Alex. Y'all, we will catch you later.
Adios.